Hey y'all, it's Bethany here. Welcome back to my channel, Bethany Brings Books. It's time for a longer overdue reading update. So, first of all, I just want to mention, y'all may notice a different background behind me. I have been in the process of reorganizing or what do you say? Decorating my living room, changing it around. So behind me, this wall is books where the TV used to be, and I really love how it's turning out. I hopefully can do a tour soon. These shelves are still not finished. If I get that taken care of, then I can't wait to do like a video showing y'all what I've done with it and how I have changed it around. I just love it so much. Let's just say life has been so busy. I feel like January I did so much reading, and then February hit and flew by, and it was insanely busy with work and so many different things going on. I don't know, it was just so busy. And I think I finished like 2 books in February, and not many. And March has been still busy. Also been like in the mood. I don't know, I feel like around springtime I just get in the mood to try to clean out and redecorate. And so there's different projects I've been trying to work on, like this living room project and work. And so I have been reading, but definitely my reading has slowed. And then also I've been just not in the mood to know what I want to read. Like, I've been in that mood of picking up books and wanting to read a lot and so many different things I want to read, and then I'll start them and then just can't decide what I want to keep reading in. Okay, so let's just talk about what I read in February that I didn't talk about in my last video. This book of Love and Treason by Jamie Ogle. I was gifted this book from a sweet friend on here, Anne from In Search of Wonder, and we buddy read this together, and it was quite fun. Although she had a rough month in February, and I had a busy month, so but we did both, I think we rated this similarly. We both enjoyed this. So my thing with this, it took me a little bit to really get hooked because I haven't read anything in this time period in quite a long time. And I feel like when I read like either biblical or that era, this is not biblical, but it's like early church era, 200, I just have to kind of switch mentally where I'm at, because I had been reading a lot of Victorians and Regency stuff, and so it took me a little bit to adjust to it. But I absolutely loved this book so much. I think I gave it 4.5 stars. It wasn't quite a 5-star. I'm trying to remember now why I didn't give it 5 stars. But this is the story of Saint Valentine, and of course of the legend of Saint Valentine. And I kind of knew loosely what the story was about because of listening to Adventures in Odyssey growing up. They had an episode about Saint Valentine, and so I kind of knew somewhat of the story, but I didn't remember all the details. I liked the author style. I felt the writing style, I felt like it was very readable, and it kept me engaged in the book. Definitely the book was kind of brutal in some parts, like for sure kind of brutal, the description, some of the torture and things that went on, and I was just like, wow. When reading books like this about the early church, it makes me just, I don't know, it just builds my faith as a Christian, but also makes me feel like, wow, what they went through, the things that they went through, and we feel like these slightest inconveniences bother us. But anyway, yeah, I loved the faith in this. Like, when I tell y'all at the end of the story, I sobbed like a baby for the last probably like that much, maybe more. It might have been even more, I don't remember, but for the last few chapters I cried like a baby, bawled, cried so much I got a headache. It's a very touching story, the story of Saint Valentine and how his life impacts the life of a jailer and his daughter who is blind. It was a beautiful story, very beautiful. I think I remember now the reason I didn't give it 5 stars is that I wish it would have been a little bit longer, and that there's a character in here whose life is intertwined with Iris, the main female character, and the way the ending turned out, I wish we could have seen a bit more of what happened with him and got some answers with him and with what happened to him. But it did really make me want to read, like, it reminded me of the Mark of the Lion series by Francine Rivers, the first one. I've read the first one and I want to read the rest. And like after reading this, I was like, okay, I really want to pick that series back up. I really enjoyed this, and I really am looking forward to reading this author's next book. I have heard really good things about that one as well, and so I'm really excited. And thank you, Anne, for this book. I had a great time buddy reading it with you. Highly, highly recommend this. It would definitely forever change your view of Valentine's Day. And like, I will never experience Valentine's Day the same. Like, I always think about it in the context of Saint Valentine and his life. Then I read this book by Agatha Christie, Why Didn't They Ask Evans? Y'all, I actually really surprisingly enjoyed this. The last few Agatha Christie's I've read were not my favorites, but this one, I think I gave this one 4 stars. And it wasn't even a Poirot or Miss Marple mystery, which that I think is like the fact that I love this so much and it wasn't one of them intrigues me, because I've been gravitating to like Poirot, particularly trying to read all of his, was different to me. It was something about it was just very different. It was refreshing and it felt quite different than her other stories that I've read so far, and there was just something about it that was very different. So we have this young man named Bobby, what's his last name? Bobby Jones. And he is at the golf course or playing golf, with someone. And while they're there, he thinks they hear someone scream. And, shortly thereafter, they realize a man fell over the side of the cliff. This golf course is like right there on the edge of like by the sea. And, they see this man who has fallen off the little path beside the cliff. He fell over the edge and landed on the rocks below. And so Bobby goes down to try to see if, give him help. And the man that he's with goes and tries to find the doctor or get a doctor or someone to come help him. And so Bobby is sitting there with the man, and the man like opens his eyes. He's unconscious, but then he opens his eyes and says, "Why didn't they ask Evans?" And then he dies. There ends up being an inquest into this, like seeing what happened, and they're like, okay, it was just an accident. But then some different things start happening, and it begins to seem suspicious. And so Bobby and his friend Frankie, who suddenly comes back into his life, a young lady, they begin to kind of investigate this man's death, because there's some different strange things start happening. And I really liked the duo of Bobby and Frankie. They were fresh and young, and their interactions with each other were fun, and there were funny moments. And I liked that they kind of had a interest in each other, and there was something about it that was just fun. I feel like them as main characters solving the mystery was super fun. It was just something about that made it really fun. So I really like this one. I highly recommend it. Okay, so then I read this, and y'all, this is the first time I have ever completely finished an audiobook, and that was A Bride Worth Taking by Rebecca. I don't know if you say her name. Connolly is Connolly, I think. She writes a lot of Regency. I think like Martha Keyes, Sarah Britton, that in that same style, I think. I have struggled with audiobooks. I may have talked about it on here before, but I really have struggled with audiobooks because I have a hard time focusing. I don't struggle with podcasts and stuff like that, but with audiobooks, I think it's my wanting to take in every detail, and I feel like I don't. So I made this decision, and I was like, okay, if I find this is my logic, y'all. Find a book that you're not gonna be upset if you miss some of the details, if you don't get every little detail, especially like descriptions and stuff, the same as I would when I'm reading it. So I was like, okay, I'm gonna find an author that I think a book that would sound interesting and keep me interested, but also at the same time, it's not a book that I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna be upset if I miss some of the details. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. Just something that I can enjoy while I'm doing. Because I wanted to do this because I wanted to have something that I can listen to while I'm cleaning and stuff. And I think I could get more done if I had something to listen to. Like, it would keep me interested in what I'm doing. I found this book. I was like, okay, let's try this one. Because I think I found one of her books on Kindle and it was interesting. So I was like, I'm going to try one of these audiobooks. So this is the first audiobook that I ever listened to all the way through, y'all. And I enjoy doing that. Like, getting that chance to, I think I was reorganizing my bookshelves and cleaning my kitchen and listening to that. And that was enjoyable. I gave it like 3.5 stars. It was an enjoyable, entertaining, angsty, kind of drama-ish read. I like that she has multiple series that are kind of like a saga, like they involve friends. Basically, most of her series involves friends and siblings, and like it overarches multiple series. Not that you couldn't read them separate. You could do that, but still, I like that you can see a continuation of the stories. I like stories like that. But yeah, it was just enjoyable. It was a marriage of convenience. I really don't remember every detail about it, but it was entertaining. And yeah, it had that angsty, like, they can't stand each other, but they have to he marries her to rescue her because it kind of, I think if I remember correct, it kind of reminds me of, it made me think about the sister in Pride and Prejudice so if you haven't read Pride and Prejudice, you might want to skip this next section because I'm about to give a spoiler. But it made me think about the sister in Pride and Prejudice who runs off with Mr. Wickham, because that's kind of where this story opens up. This young lady has run off with someone who has promised to marry her, and then finds out he's not who he said he was. And so her brother's friend and his brother come to rescue her at an inn, and of course her reputation is ruined. So one of the brothers says he will marry her, and their story, of course, they're at odds with each other, at each other's throats. So yeah, it was entertaining reading for while I worked around the house, and I want to read more of her stuff. She has several series that I'm really interested in. There were some characters in this one that I know are in another series she has, and I'm really interested in reading that one. So yeah, I enjoyed it. Content-wise, it had some mild language, but otherwise it's considered clean fiction. Like I said, it's in the same vein as like Sally Britton, Martha Keyes, a lot of these popular Regency authors. You see their books on Amazon and stuff. And then, y'all, after I finished that, I read Meet Samantha. I'm trying to get into the middle grade March thing, even though I was struggling along. I was trying to do middle grade March, and so I really wanted to read a American Girl series again. So I did a poll over on my Instagram, and between Samantha, Felicity, Addie, and Josefina, Samantha won. So I've been reading that series. I've read the first 4. I read the first one, and I think I want to read the whole series and then rate it as a whole. So far, my thoughts: I enjoyed this series. I loved it growing up. I think, if I remember correctly, I liked it growing up. I also really love the movie. The movie was just so nostalgic for me. I've been rewatching that one as well. I don't think I finished it, but I've had it playing a couple of times recently and watching it, and yeah, I love the time period that this is set in, and I love seeing where they live and like the Victorian mansion, and even when they go on vacation. I don't know, I like that time period. early 1900s. I enjoy this. Samantha is a young girl who is orphaned, and she lives with her Grand Mary, and her Grand Mary is very wealthy, and they live in, I believe it's New York State, if I remember correctly. In this one, we're introduced to her and her friend Nellie. Nellie is a young servant girl who works next door, and Samantha quickly befriends her. Enjoyed it. Then I read Samantha Learns a Lesson. Enjoyed that one as well. That one, Samantha is trying to teach Nellie to read, I think, if I remember right. Also, I love the illustrations in these books. I don't know what it is. I just love them. I think they're so pretty. And then, actually, I have the books right here. Y'all, I forgot I have these books. Yeah, so Meet Samantha and Samantha Learns a Lesson. And then I read Samantha's Surprise: A Christmas Story. This one, I think, really inspired this was one of the books that inspired my love for Christmas. I loved reading all of the ways that Samantha decorated for Christmas in this book and the things that she created. It was just so fun to me. Like, I loved that growing up. It made me want to have a early Victorian, Edwardian. I'm not sure. Is she Victorian or Edwardian? Christmas. Like, I just loved reading about the things she did to decorate and how they celebrated Christmas. That was so fun to me. So this one, I think out of all the ones I've read, these two are my favorites. I love this one because it's Christmas, and then I love Happy Birthday, Samantha. I loved reading about her birthday party and how I remember growing up, I loved this one. I love reading about how they made the little cakes for her party and all the little fun things they did. And I loved her outfit, and just the twins that came, they were fun. And these two are my favorites out of all the ones I've read so far. These are my favorite. I read those, and then I read a book called Murder in Highbury by Vanessa Kelly. This book caught my eye at my library, and I don't know, I just was in the mood for all the Regency things, and when I saw this book, I thought, this sounds interesting, so I checked it out. And so this is kind of a continuation of the Emma story. So if you've read Emma by Jane Austen, then that was what I thought, this would be fun. We're going back to Highbury. We're going to see these characters again, and it's a mystery. And so the book quickly opens up. Emma is, at this point, it's like a year after her marriage to Mr. Knightley. Her and Harriet Martin are going to the church for, I can't remember why. They're going to the church for some reason, like walking to the church. And when they go in the church, they find Mistress Elton dead in the church, and someone has murdered her. So this begins the book, a mystery about who murdered Mistress Elton. And of course, Emma has to meddle and try to figure out what's going on. And so I enjoyed this, but I had issues with it as well. So let's talk about what I had issues with. Well, let's talk about what I enjoyed first, actually. I don't know why it's easier for me to do it that way, but I loved going back to this setting and seeing these characters again. We see Miss Bates and her mother, Mrs. Bates, and we see Emma's sweet father, and he is so funny, always worrying about everyone in this book, and it cracks me up so much. He is so funny to me. I love him. He's like one of my favorite side characters. We see Harriet Martin, and we see Jane, her and Frank Churchill. We see Mr. and Mrs. Weston, and we see, I'm trying to think, there's so many side characters in this book. Mr. and Mrs. Elton. Well, Mrs. Elton's dead, but Mr. Elton. That part I loved. It was just delightful being in Highbury again and just getting more of that setting and the characters. And it was just fun, like the aspect of a murder mystery and her having to solve it was fun. But I found it to be incredibly slow-paced, like very slow-paced, especially the first few chapters are like super, I feel like it was just really, really slow, like drawn out, to lengthen the story, because it wasn't like anything was happening. It was just like you're getting a play-by-play of, they find Mrs. Elton, and get a play-by-play of like the whole conversation that she has with, I can't remember if it's like the doctor or someone, and it's just, it felt like it was so much unnecessary detail just to lengthen the story, and like unnecessary conversations, unnecessary dialogue. But yeah, that was my main issue with the story, was that it was just really slow, and there were so many unnecessary conversations and things that I think just lengthened the story, and not in a way that made it better. The ending was a bit of a surprise. For most of the story, I did not know who it was. I wasn't sure. Towards the end, I kind of began to suspect by a few things that started happening. Overall, it was a surprise. For most of the story, I wasn't really suspecting who it was. So yeah, I gave it like 3.5 stars. I think if you like Emma, if you like the story of Emma, and you're looking to be back in that setting, then you might want to enjoy this. But I will say it is very slow paced. So yeah, it's not like, it's a cozy mystery. Content wise, it was clean. It had some mild language, not much, I don't think, and nothing else other than that I recall. In the end, I read The Seaside Homecoming by Julie Clausen. And I'm sorry, y'all, if I keep coughing. The pollen has got my throat all out of sorts, and it's throwing me off. But anyway, The Seaside Homecoming by Julie Clausen. This is the third Julie Clausen book that I have read in the past year, which I think is, I don't know, I feel like that's significant that I've read. This is her third book I've read in less than a year, actually. And I've really fallen in love with her writing. This was the third book in her Sisters of Seaview series, I think is the name of it. And I quite enjoyed this. I thought it was very delightful. This whole series as a whole was a very sweetly told story. Slow paced, but if you're in the mood for something like that, that's just slow, sweet, slice of a life type of daily life. Yeah, you might enjoy this. This follows up on their long lost sister Claire, who had been sent to live in Scotland because of this scandal. And so they haven't seen the sister in a while, and the lady, the older aunt that she's living with, passes away, and so Claire has to figure out what to do. And she ends up moving back to Seaview and helping out at this boarding house, not the family's boarding house, another boarding house. And it's the story of that, and just the different things that come from that, and her relationship developing with someone in that community, and her reconciliation with her family. And a very sweet story. There were some things I really enjoyed. There's a side character that I enjoyed seeing again, and kind of something that develops with him and another character, and I enjoyed seeing Claire's story unfold. There was a scene at the ending that was just beautiful to me between Claire and her mother. It was absolutely beautiful. One of the most beautiful scenes in the story. Very touching. The faith in that aspect, some of the things in that conversation really, really, really touched my heart. Like, really made me tear up. That was beautiful. That part was just beautiful. Some of the things that the mother said, I'm sorry, y'all. This made me cry, but it really hit home for me. So there's a conversation about the father who had passed away, and there's a conversation that they have about the fact that he's in heaven. You know, we believe he's in heaven now, and it just hit home for me because it felt very much like a conversation that I had sitting by my husband's grave as I struggle with forgiveness with some people in my life. I remember it felt like to me as I sat there that it wasn't audible or anything like that, but it if you've lost someone and you've ever sat and talked to them by their grave, you might understand this, but there's times when it feels like you can clearly hear them just speaking to your heart, and that's what it felt like, that he just spoke to my heart. You need to let this go. I'm in heaven. You need to forgive. I was dealing with some issues of a lot of bitterness towards some church people who hurt my husband before he passed away, and it just really, it made me angry because I have often wondered what might have turned out differently if they had done things differently. So one day I was sitting by his grave, and it felt like he spoke into my heart and was like, look, I'm in heaven now. I'm at peace. You need to let it go and forgive them, because in the end, if they're serving God, they're going to be here too, and we're going to celebrate in heaven together. And so there's a scene where that type of conversation kind of comes up, and it really hit home, and that really made the whole book for me. That scene just really made the whole book really special. So I love this. I gave it 5 stars. It was a beautiful story. So there's that. Then most recent book that I finished, The Family Under the Bridge by Natalie Savage Carlson. I had selected a few different books and put in my TBR basket to read some middle grade stuff this month. This is a Newbery Honor book. I'm trying to slowly read through the awards and honors, and this book was originally published in 1958, and y'all, I loved this book. This book was such a treasure to me to find. Like, this is going on one of my all-time favorite kids books. I just loved this so much. So it's about this, it opens up and it's like right around Christmas time in Paris, and there's this man that he's a hobo, as they call him in the book, and he lives under a bridge in Paris, and he encounters this family, this mom and her 3 kids, I think, and they have basically been kicked out of their apartment because they don't have income to pay for their home, and the mom's working, and the 3 kids they're like staying under the bridge, and they don't want to get caught. If they do, the mom will get in trouble, and this hobo is like, he doesn't want anything to do with children because he knows that they'll steal his heart. But their lives quickly become intertwined, and for Christmas these kids just want a house, and it's just the sweetest story, y'all. I love it so much. I highly recommend this one. Like, 5 stars. Just thinking about it now, this would be a really good book to read at Christmas or New Year's. It's just so sweet. It's such a sweet story. And like, at first I was like, okay, I loved it, but also I was like, I feel like in some ways it kind of romanticizes being homeless, but the ending, there's a twist and something that he just has Armand, the hobo, has a change of heart about some things, and it is such a sweet story. Like, so sweet. I loved it so much. Just thinking about it right now makes my heart happy. I highly recommend this one. If you haven't read it, it's just the cutest kids book. And he's like, I want to see the section where he says, he calls them, and he also calls them little starlings, like the birds. But he says, the little girl says something to him. Armand grumbled to himself and pulled his coat tighter across his chest as if to hide his heart. Oh, this starling was a dangerous one. He'd better move on. Paris was full of bridges. So he was just like, he didn't want to lose his heart to this little girl. That is so sweet. Oh, this is what he says. Susie says, they're kind of arguing about where to leave. Like, he's saying they've taken part of his bridge, and she says, Susie tried to make peace. He's a nice, friendly old tramp, Mama, she explained, and he's going to live with us. I'm not a friendly old tramp, said Armand indignantly. I'm a mean, cranky old tramp, and I hate children and dogs and women. Then if you hate us, said Paul, why did you give us some of your food? Because I'm a stupid old tramp, replied Armand. Because I'm a stupid, soft-hearted old tramp. Oh la la, there it was. He had let slip that he really had a heart. Now this homeless family would surely be after that too. So cute. Y'all, this is just a sweet, heartwarming story. Like, found family. So sweet. So sweet. So sweet, y'all. I didn't think I was going to gush that much over this, but it was the sweetest little story. Adorable. I loved it. That's what I've been reading, guys. This is so long. This is what happens when I wait too long to do a video. I haven't talked in a while on a video, so then I talk too long and I have too much to talk about. That's why this video is so long. So anyway, guys, thank y'all for joining me. Hopefully it won't be this long before my next video, as long as it was last time. It's been a hectic time period, but anyway, thank you guys for watching, and can't wait to talk to you later. Bye.